we'll break away from the PowerPoint slides for a second then, and moving on, once this course organizer has been brought up to a point where the faculty member is ready to see the course start to take shape online and start creating their content, we actually, I'm going to go ahead and just pull up an example here. I wanted to show a couple of course examples here.
This is my class in HR and Alert Behavior. So this is the touchy-feely class for our HIV students.
And you'll see that the 7 individual sessions are available for students along the left-hand side. We take the template's actually linear, rather than have students reach into those default buckets that you normally see inside Blackboard: assignments, readings, downloads, etc. And as students enter an individual session, I'll go ahead and click on one of those right now here for week 1. You'll see that there's in the interest of time, maybe we'll move ahead a little bit too. You'll see that in your course organizers, if you want to continue to look at page 5, you'll see that all of the materials for session 1 map directly to what happened there in the course organizer. So this is mostly copying and pasting over from the course organizer, and then the faculty member building out the content.
So every course has each one of these types of headings.
Right.
So students know what to expect in terms of the same format.
So every week they start off seeing their session topics. They get a video-based introduction. In most of our courses, Dr. Friedman actually does one. We have a sample here.
Sure, we can do that.
That could be done at your desk, yes, obviously.
I can do that.
This is just a simple podcast video. It really takes only about a minute or 2 to get trained up on using the webcam that's integrated right into the top of your computer or laptop. So here's Dr. Friedman.
HSML 6216, Human Resource Management and Organization Behavior in Healthcare. My name is Leonard Friedman, and I'm going to be the instructor for this class for all of you this first 7 weeks of our summer term. Welcome to my home office. This is a place where we are going to do all of our Illuminate live sessions, and is essentially my office away from my office. So we're glad to have you with us. What I'd like to...
And these videos are generally used faculty members to connect with students, to summarize what they're seeing in the assignments for students each week, talk about the main points and questions that are coming up inside the discussion boards, which is generally drive the class forward at the beginning of each session so that students are all going.
Just a comment. It's always nice for students to see the faculty, to feel like you have a connection. Some faculty shy away from that. They don't like to see themselves.
And I will tell you, my dogs are running around outside, and so you will hear my pugs barking. And I wait until week 7, and I allow the pugs to invade the home office and jump up in my lap, and everybody says hello to Rocky and Millie.
What's nice about these videos is you can film them on your own time.
Yeah.
So in some ways, there's some kind of nice flexibility that comes around that.
When you feel like with narrated PowerPoint, a lot of times if you make a mistake, it takes a while to go back and fix it, and sometimes you have to restart. How is it with the video?
I've had videos that I just go. What I'll typically do is, unbeknownst to the student, I've got a very short outline of some of the things I want to say. So I'll periodically look down. Sometimes it's just, I know what I want to say and it just comes out. I would recommend for all of you though, just don't read off a script. Students aren't interested in the script. They want you. And have a couple points that you want to make, and this is maybe 5 minutes. So if it doesn't work, do it again. The thing is, they don't have to be perfect. They just have to be you.
There have been a couple instances where I have videos that I had to cut out for whatever reason, and Andy was helpful in actually cutting it. I think there are some video editing tools that are quite easy that you just say, I want to splice out this part of my video. And, but I haven't learned that yet, but I've been relying on Andy a little bit for that help. And there is technical help available too sometimes to make it do that.
Yeah, I've seen one where a student had an open closet behind them. They're just looking into their messed up closet. I want to take a look behind you.
And Julie point is right. I did want to make sure that the clutter was a little bit, yeah.
So as we continue to take a look at this session, once the faculty members provided some good direction to the students with an introduction, you see the session level topics, those all important learning objectives that were reported directly from the course organizer, direct links to the readings. Our weekly Illuminate session, this is something that's a requirement for teaching in the HIT program. It's a weekly live 1-hour session with students using what now is called Blackboard Collaborate, but it originally was called Illuminate until just a few weeks ago, actually. And we'll be taking a look at the sample Illuminate session in just a little bit. Then there's usually a lecture supplement of some sort, in this case a narrated PowerPoint, and I'll go ahead and play a sample here.
We also put a non-narrated PowerPoint on there that students could download to take notes.
Can you capture the Illuminate session?
You can.
Yes.
You can.
Which is why we will be able to show it to you.
We generally make it so that our Illuminate sessions are not a requirement.
Oh,
It's
this
students
is your class.
can make them sessions.
Yeah, this is Bianca.
Yep. So here's a narrated PowerPoint from the first week of health.
I wanted to hear myself.
I should say that Dr. Frogner actually is very graciously, along with Dr. Friedman, both of them very graciously allowed us to use both of their courses as model courses in working with other faculty members. And this particular narrative PowerPoint lecture is usually the one that I demo because it usually gets faculty members thinking about using graphics and using just engaging, friendly language in their lectures rather than just a very stale PowerPoint presentation, which is what a lot of narrative PowerPoints end up turning out to be. So with that, I'll go ahead and play. And we'll take that 30-second one.
Welcome to the first lecture on health utility and production. Today we will discuss the production possibilities curve, the health utility function, and the health production function. We will distinguish between total versus marginal utility and total versus marginal product. Consider your travel budget. Perhaps this is a lucky year and you get to go to both Beijing, China and Paris, France. However, given that you're a diligent person, you have only a limited amount of money to spend on these two trips. So you have to consider, when you go to Beijing and you spend more money there, what are you missing out on in Paris, France? Versus what if you spent more money in Paris, France, what are you left with to spend in Beijing, China?
I just want to go ahead and skip ahead a little
These
bit
are just
to
some
show some of the other
examples,
graphical examples.
and I'm sure you could come up with
Slides
many
are
more.
very rich with visual examples.
So going back to this B, C, D, and E are examples of where we're going to be able to produce more of a service or health. You gain more utility or happiness.
Yeah. Are you using a microphone there? Or
You
just
have on the
using
happiness.
Do you
You're
have
just
a
a little bit
I had
happy.
fun with the microphone.
You maybe be a little bit more happier. You can go on and on. But is there some maximum level of happiness?
Heavens no.
And it's and that's exactly the reason why I use this as an example.
So I have to say, I'm not naturally a visual learner, so I actually realized that, it's hard sometimes just for people to hear a voice, and so I'm not very fancy in my graphics, but I have used some downloadable graphics that comes along with my readings, along with just Word, PowerPoint images that you can just download. That's where all those pictures come from. It's not like I drew them. But you can hear, but I'm a critic of myself, I can hear I'm stuttering in my own voice because it was the first time I was really recording an online PowerPoint. So I did have a hard time speaking naturally. I think one of the things is I tend to talk very fast also, especially in person in a lecture room, and so I was really trying hard to speak slowly and clearly, and as a result, I wasn't very natural in speaking generally, and so what I learned after a while was how to stop the recording after every couple sentences, so I could just stop and think for a moment, and then you would start again. And that didn't break up if I stop it. So a couple times I'll say a sentence and I'll stop. And that got to be less and less over time. At the very beginning, that's how I went forward. So it was a learning process. But eventually I just got more natural and it was fine. So that's the inside scoop.
And Bianca, after you made your lecture more visual, What did you find yourself doing in your on-campus class?
I'm
Did
trying-
you bring some of that?
I haven't actually taught Health Econ again on campus yet since I've taught it online, but I do think that going through this process, I realize there are things I actually don't give to my students on campus I should be bringing into the class, like the more visuals for health economics, and I think especially some of the videos that I provide in addition to supplement my courses online, I should be sharing that with my students on campus. There's other like online applets, like interactive ways to learn concepts that, again, I don't provide to my students on campus, but I'm providing online. So in some ways, my students on campus are missing out.
I've had the same experience in that my online classes get lots of these little YouTube videos and other tools, and for the first time I'm bringing them into my class this semester and sharing similar sorts of visual aids.
I also
Seems to
actually
work out.
use YouTube too. It might feel funny, but it is a public good that's available out there to be used, and as long as you don't overuse it and help students understand why you chose that video and why that's useful, I think it's a nice way to kind of break up the class.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways, if we bring in the guest lecturers into our class, the YouTube in some ways can act like a pseudo guest lecturer in some ways.
Sure.
One of the things I learned with the PowerPoint, the actual PowerPoint file, is if you put notes in the notes section, not only for yourself, so that you don't start rambling, because you are the content expert on what's on that slide, and so you can think about, oh, and then this relates to this, and then all of a sudden you've just spent 15 minutes on one slide by yourself, and like, I don't want 15 minutes on one slide, and so the idea of having the key points you want in notes is also helpful for the student when they download it, then they can see, oh, this is what she's saying, because like Bianca, I also start to talk really quickly, and a couple of my slides were really quick, and had really diverse examples, and I didn't want to lose the diversity of the example, but I knew I could write it out, and they could read it and get it, and so that was another mechanism to share that with them.
So, in some cases, traditional classroom assignments need to be retooled so that they work online and they're effective. And we're going to start looking at a couple examples of discussion forums and ways to use discussion forums to recreate and retool traditional classroom activities, starting with a classroom discussion. As a general rule, we ask that our students respond to a discussion question with about a 200 to 300 word post, and then respond to 3 other students. And hopefully that gets the ball rolling. We also use discussion leaders, as I mentioned previously, so that someone's jumping in intermittently and moving different discussion threads forward as well. We also ask that in a lot of our courses, when students have a written assignment, that they also post it to the discussion board, so that some discussion gets going back and forth. And I'm going to try to bring up one of those. We can sort of maybe try to follow the thread discussion.
We were going to the, you want to go to this one?
Yeah. There was a little
Yeah, we were
oh,
going to the group
thing.
thing.
Yes, sorry.
Group thing's fun.
So this was a individual write-up on group thing. So here we have the individual students write-up, and other students have been asked to go in and actually read and then give some comments back. And you can see all the individual threads spawning off of these. This is something that actually is probably better done individually, going through and following the threads, otherwise we have different stuff to use it. At least you can see the flow a little bit of students responding to one another,
So are they
talking about this individual student's write-up.
Are they initially posting an individual answer to the assignment
They
that are not based on reading each other's, and then they're going in and following all the threads?
That's correct.
Okay.
So the assignment would be post your response and then respond to at least 3 others.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So, and that's one of the things that we always try to do in the course. I think I mentioned that previously, is that we're always trying to leverage existing student work, put it up online, and get a discussion going around it.
Are you comfortable that all the students are doing individual work for the first post, or do
Oh.
the ones who come into time constraints kind of go and look at what somebody else has posted and kind of
I think
borrow
we-
those ideas.
I think we have to acknowledge that that can occur, but we remind everyone right off the bat that,
You're adults.
you know, you're adults working on the honor system, and this
And
is
it's
your
learning
learning.
that's at stake, yeah.
Exactly.
And I think this is a question for Andy actually. Is it possible like to randomize, say when I log, I don't, it has been a long time since I used the Blackboard.
Mhm.
So in the threads, is it like, does the Blackboard provide some sort of a randomization utility so that today if I log on, then this group thing, Evelyn Paradox actually comes on the top. But after
You can
1
actually
hour
organize this
tomorrow,
by
if I
date.
do,
Yeah.
some other top thread will come on top. So because as earlier the comment was, you tend to actually start reading what is in the top rather than you don't bother going down the
I hear what you're
screen.
saying. Not that I'm aware of, we are actually making a move right now to Blackboard 9.1 from 8, which is the system we're on currently, and there's a lot of great changes coming down the pipe. One of them is the ability to organize your students in groups much more easily than you are able to do now, and then start discussions within those groups. And that's a tool that I'm really looking forward to exploring.
I believe that lunch is available